I want to get to another point that we touched on. It relates to transparency, and it's this concept of authenticity, which almost is overused today, but so critically important. Let's talk about that. What does it really mean to be an authentic communicator? And Mary, let's kick off with you.
Yeah, this is something we think about a lot at the business school. And it's this idea of, first of all, we are human beings, not human doings. So as a leader, what are the values that I'm aligned with? What is the experience I'm trying to deliver to my team? What's the invitation I'm extending? Or what is it that I want people to say yes to? And so in all of that, seeing where can I be a little more relational with folks so that they want to follow me, that there is trust there, that there is this back and forth of communication, there's some flow and some trust. And sometimes that might require a leader to be a little bit vulnerable. But when I say vulnerability, I'm not talking about I'm going to be vulnerable and just put it all out there on the table for you, right? There's a time and place for all of those. But really thinking about where can I lean in a little more to my values as a leader, as a way of creating safety and connection with my team or with a larger group of people to get them to that final goal or outcome. And so in order to do this, I encourage all of our leaders on the call today to think about first, are you clear on what matters to you? What are your centering or grounding values? And then how can you let those show up more in your communication style so that you have the impact and the connection that you want to have?
Wonderfully said, Mary. So first and foremost, it takes some real self reflection and introspection to make sure you're really, really clear on your own leadership values. And then what's your unique style and how do you authentically communicate those? And there's a time and place for vulnerability. I'd love to hear from you, Dan. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about because I've actually seen real time the impact of not really being in touch with some of the real reaction, feeling, perception that happens when there's that sense of scripted, non-authentic. And I think there's a couple of considerations here. One is, there's a traditional school of leadership kind of going back that talked about leadership equates to increased competence. And that can lead us into this trap, this mindset trap of perfectionism as a leader, which is I don't make mistakes as a leader. I coach others through their mistakes. But what I've certainly learned in leading my own teams and what these exceptional leaders through my Market Impact Insights podcast have shared, and this is kind of cross-culturally around the world, is that actually being that leading example of learning from your own mistakes, when your team sees that the leader themselves, they can relate, they've tripped up, they've had an objective that they didn't reach. But the important thing is to keep the focus on the outcomes and solutions that you are working towards, not to get mired in the muck of problem definition, problem regurgitation. And so as a leader, how do you get those wheels out of the mud and get the team still moving towards a really positive outcome, but also recognizing that there is valuable learning that comes from, quote, failing or not reaching an objective or mistakes, whatever that might be. But owning it, though, and showing that you own it as a leader, that's a powerful thing. And one other point that I would make around this whole idea of transparency and even bringing into the vulnerability, we put a lot of focus, as we should, on our existing internal teams, but actually taking kind of a marketing concept of the customer journey. What we don't always do is overlay that into the employee journey, all right? And so that actually starts, the tone actually is set before someone joins your organization. So even during the recruiting process, as you're bringing new talent in, how you as a leader can demonstrate transparency, vulnerability, authenticity. Now you're setting a stronger foundation when you're bringing that top talent into your organization from the beginning. You're not just reacting to a problem, you're trying to create a better environment from the outset of your relationship with a potential employee. So that's important. for our audience to be thinking about also.
Excellent point. Excellent. And I want to go back to the point you made about so many issues associated with this feeling that leadership means perfection, and I have to project myself as infallible and under no circumstances reveal my own failures and mistakes. What you're doing is completely stifling experimentation and innovation and creation. You want to own up to your own mistakes and encourage others to be free to do some experimentation. Mano, what do you have
Yes,
to add?
I think we should touch on, and Mary may have something to add to this, on what we mean by vulnerability. You demonstrated a form of vulnerability, which is owning up to being open about mistakes, etc. I think there's a chronology to this. That version of vulnerability works very well when you have a relationship where you have shown yourself to be a good leader, a calm leader, someone who's good in a crisis. And then when you own up to your mistakes, it can have a very enhancing effect on those virtues. But appearing vulnerable straight away in your career and certainly to multiple levels of the organization may have the opposite of the intended effect. Mary had a great definition of vulnerability, which works in a different way and well as well.
Thank you, Mano. That is a very good point. One, let's be clear on what we mean by vulnerability, which you said is human connection, Mary, and not necessarily exposing all of what's going on inside. And timing is important too, Mano. So for instance, if you're meeting a brand new team for the first time, you might not want to lead by saying, I'm feeling terribly inadequate and insecure right now, but bear with me. So yeah, that's a really good point.